I understand that what I am about to tell you about the afterlife will most likely shock you, but I and souls like me are no longer able to remain silent. Before it's too late, people need to know the real truth about what will happen to them after death. Believe me, we have overcome too much not to bring you a message from the other world. Personally, I died in a terrible battle when we were hit by artillery fire. My friends and I didn't have time to feel anything. Everything happened too fast, and now you think we're dead. But that's not really the case. Our existence continues beyond the boundaries of physical space. What we saw there and what we encountered in other areas will make some of you shudder with horror, while others will think hard. In our messages from the other side of existence, you will find not only comfort, but also a warning. This strange and at the same time frightening message on behalf of the dead soldiers was transmitted to living people through a medium named Estelle Roberts. She was known all over the world for her ability to communicate with the souls of the dead, who sometimes told her such details about the structure of the afterlife that even she, who had seen everything, could not recover from these terrible revelations for a long time. Estelle Roberts was born in Wales in 1899 into a family where spiritual traditions and the occult were part of daily life. Since childhood, she has shown unusual abilities such as clairvoyance and premonition. These abilities became especially noticeable after the death of her mother, which prompted Estelle Roberts to explore spiritualism and practices that allow her to contact souls in the afterlife. Her success in this field was so outstanding that at the age of 20, she began conducting spiritualism sessions herself. These sessions were so successful that they immediately attracted the attention of local residents. Estelle Roberts' reputation and fame grew so rapidly that she soon began receiving invitations to sessions in various cities in the UK. Over time, she became one of the most famous mediums of her time. Estelle Roberts has written several books about spiritualism and her experiences with souls. They became instant bestsellers. The main method she used to communicate with the dead was entering a trance state. In this state, Estelle Roberts claimed that she became a conduit between the world of the living and the world of the dead. The souls from the other world used her body and voice to send their messages. Sometimes she also used the personal belongings of the deceased to establish contact. These objects, according to her, contained an energy trace of the soul, and this helped to establish a closer connection with it. These could be letters, photographs, medals, and other items. Estelle Roberts gained her greatest fame thanks to the sessions in which she came into contact with the souls of deceased soldiers. One such case occurred in London in the early 1920s. During that session, Estelle Roberts claimed to have contacted the spirit of a soldier who died on the Western Front in World War I. The soldier she described gave his name and mentioned several details of his life that could only be known to his family. Estelle Roberts often sent personal messages on behalf of the fallen soldiers. In one case, the spirit of a soldier named Thomas spoke about his childhood and a favorite place where he often played with his sister. He also recalled a specific family holiday and a gift he received on his last birthday before being sent to the front. That's what Thomas conveyed through the medium. The battle I died in was terrible. I remember being hit by a wave of fire and bullets, and then I found myself in the afterlife. I met many other soldiers here, and together we overcome our fears and pain. I miss our home and those I loved, and I still do, even here, beyond the physical world. But now there are no material boundaries for me. So when you suddenly feel a light breeze on your face, know that it's me. I'm looking out for you, even from here. Naturally, the medium tried to ask the dead soldiers in detail about how the afterlife works, and their answers were not always comforting. Some people said things that made me shudder. They described what they had to go through before finding peace, and it must be said that not everyone succeeded. Most of the soldiers admitted that at first they found themselves in a dark place where they felt isolated and lonely. This was especially true of those who died in an unfair war or were particularly cruel. In the next world, their own hell was guilt. The souls of the deceased soldiers noted that even if a person did not experience remorse during his lifetime, there would be no trace of such cynicism in the otherworldly space. There, the soul throws off the shackles not only of the body, but also of selfishness, remaining completely naked before the energies of spirituality. These energies encourage her to realize what she has done during her mortal existence. Here's what one of the deceased soldiers said about this. People without conscience should not delude themselves that if they didn't worry about anything during their lifetime, then this will continue after death. On the contrary, for such people, retribution will be especially painful. The less conscience a person had during his lifetime, the more terrible it will be for him in the afterlife. Some soldiers in their messages from the other world noted that the most terrible thing for them was that their judges and sometimes their executioners were their innocent victims. And this is especially difficult because to the suffering associated with the atonement of what was done, the torments of a naked conscience were also added. It was like pouring red-hot lava into an open wound. According to the deceased, there is nothing scarier in the afterlife than this. Therefore, even if a person has committed a lot of evil, it is better for him to keep at least the remnants of his conscience, so that later he will not regret it bitterly when nothing can be fixed. The souls of the dead soldiers also said that the other world was full of dark places where they had to wander until they met those they had killed. And these meetings are rarely joyful. You should not believe that there's complete forgiveness in the afterlife. On the contrary, very often the feud continues there. It lasts until the soul has completely exhausted its entire supply of vital energy. But during this time, she manages to plunge very deeply into hell, and the path from there to the true light becomes long and painful. Some soldiers' souls mentioned in their messages from the other world that hell is filled with fire and heat. They describe their suffering in a flame that burns them without end. And this endless cycle of pain repeats over and over again until all sins are burned away. Yet, despite the grim descriptions, some of the souls of the fallen soldiers expressed hope for redemption and forgiveness. They talked about how realizing their mistakes and sincere remorse could help them get out of this state of torment. These souls sought forgiveness and believed they could find peace and reconciliation. Therefore, they reached out to the light with all their might, trying to find those who had been wronged in the afterlife and beg for their forgiveness. In addition, the souls of the dead soldiers reported that those who died for a just cause had a completely different fate. In the other world, those who defended goodness, who gave their lives defending their land and those they loved, find a state of peace and tranquility in the otherworldly space. They described the afterlife as a place free from the suffering and pain they had experienced during their lives, especially during the war. Soldiers often mentioned meetings in the afterlife with relatives and friends who had died earlier. According to their stories, they accompanied the souls of those they loved and who were important to them during their lifetime. These meetings brought them great comfort and joy, as they allowed them to feel the presence of loved ones again. Such souls acted as guides, helping newcomers to adapt to another reality, showing them the way and supporting them in the first moments after the transition. The souls of deceased relatives and friends greeted them with smiles and warmth, hugged them, and expressed their love. They often said that such meetings took place in beautiful and peaceful places filled with light and harmony. These places seemed familiar and cozy to them, as if they reflected the best memories from their past lives. The souls of loved ones helped the newcomers to cope with the first difficulties in the afterlife, calmed them down, and made them understand that death is just a transition to another state of being. They helped the soldiers to realize and accept their new identity, explained the laws and rules of the new world, and supported them morally and emotionally. Such meetings became an important stage in adapting to the afterlife, helping soldiers feel like they were part of a great and endless process of existence. Many soldiers' souls reported a sense of liberation from the heaviness and limitations of the physical world. They described how after death they feel lightness and freedom of movement, as well as the ability to move around the afterlife without obstacles. There they continue to learn new things, develop spiritually and morally. The souls of the dead described this process as a continuous movement towards a better understanding of themselves and the world around them. Those who have kept in touch with the spiritual principle find themselves in beautiful places where everything is permeated with love and peace. One of the dead soldiers reported these words, "There is no hell in the next world for those who leave with a pure heart. They always find peace and solace." In their messages from the other world, soldiers often mention the processes of recovery and healing that took place with them. Estelle Roberts claimed that her sessions helped people find answers to questions about the fate of their loved ones, as well as helped them cope with the loss. Write in the comments what you think about this. Dear friends, thank you for watching my video to the end. If you liked it, please like it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's very important. Thank you, and have a nice day.